This upcoming small, perhaps 2-foot tall stand of Acropora palmata is an example of what is commonly known as Elkhorn coral. One of the most essential reef-building species, Elkhorn coral once thrived in nearshore marine habitats of the Caribbean, Florida, and the Bahamas. Indeed, magnificent stands of Elkhorn corals, some individual examples measuring more than 12 feet across and over 6 feet in height, and providing critical habitat for many different fish and invertebrate species, were common in some areas of the Caribbean as recently as 50 years ago. But now, especially in the wake of white band coral disease outbreaks starting in the early 1990s, more than 95% of Elkhorn coral stands in much of the Caribbean have been reduced to non-living coral skeletons and rubble. However, here in Cuba's Jardines de la Reina, a name given by Christopher Columbus and Spanish for Gardens of the Queen, this now strictly protected marine environment, spanning more than 800 square miles in area and situated amongst an archipelago of perhaps countless islands occurring just 50 miles south of the south-central Cuban coast, has, as of a 2019 survey, been estimated to contain as many as 7,000 colonies of Elkhorn coral. This, as well as greatly increased fish and marine invertebrate populations, is testimony that the protective measures implemented in 1996 to preserve this coral reef ecosystem have been very successful. Often referred to as Cuba's Coral Garden, with over 30 species of coral, since its initial protection, fish numbers in the park have increased by up to 50%, and its biodiversity continues to grow due to strict regulations and surveillance efforts. Jardines de la Reina's diverse species assemblages earned the park a Hope Spot designation in 2013 in recognition of its rich marine biodiversity, which includes pristine coral reefs, some over 4,000 years old, seagrass beds, mangroves, and expansive ocean ecosystems. Note the colorful stoplight parrotfish here, partaking of a meal of macroalgae. By doing this, the stoplight parrotfish, along with a number of other species, helps to keep the substrate relatively clear of macroalgae. This provides anchoring habitat for the corals. The four-eye butterflyfish features two namesake false eye spots on either base of the caudal fin and help not only to add to this fish's remarkable beauty, but also misdirect would-be predators. Like other butterfly fishes of coral reefs worldwide, the four-eye butterflyfish has an extended tubular mouth. This enables it to feed on a variety of small invertebrates, including mainly zoantherians, sea anemones, scleractinians, polychaete worms, gorgonians, tunicates, crustaceans, and fish eggs. Measuring up to 9.8 feet long, the Caribbean reef shark is one of the largest apex predators in the reef ecosystem. It feeds on a variety of fishes and cephalopods. These sharks are common dive companions in the Jardines de la Reina. As is the case with other members of the Carcharinidae, that is, the requiem sharks, the reef shark is viviparous, with the females giving birth to 4 to 6 young every other year. One of the most abundant fishes to be found in the Jardines de la Reina amongst the coral are the grunts, and the white grunt is one of these. The white grunt feeds on small fishes, crabs, and shrimps. Like other members of the family Hemulidae, the white grunt gets its name from the grunting sound it makes by grinding the teeth in its throat with the air bladder, which acts as an amplifier. Pillar coral is a hard coral found in the western Atlantic Ocean and the Caribbean Sea. It often resembles fingers or a cluster of cigars growing up from the seafloor. Pillar coral is listed as threatened under the Endangered Species Act. However, here in the Jardines de la Reina, it is a relatively abundant hard coral. On several dives, we saw large, healthy stands of pillar coral in rather close proximity to one another. The Nassau grouper is a member of the family Serranidae, which includes the groupers. These large fish are associated with hard structures, such as rocks, ledges, and reefs. They are late maturing, long-lived, top-level predators found in southern coastal Florida, the Florida Keys, Bermuda, the Yucatan, and the Caribbean Sea. The long-spined sea urchin is one of the most important herbivores in the Caribbean coral reef system. And as an herbivore, it eats algae. By eating algae, it's essentially a cleaner of the reef. In this way, the long-spined sea urchin provides free substrate, to which coral polyps can attach and develop into coral colonies, thereby maintaining the coral reef. Famously, a die-off of long-spined sea urchins began to occur in the early 1980s, and it spread throughout the entire Caribbean. It affected all populations of long-spined sea urchins, and marine biologists have concluded that no populations of the long-spined sea urchin in the Caribbean have yet fully recovered. The Jardines de la Reina is no exception to this long-spined sea urchin die-off rule. And as a result, the corals of this reef system are somewhat displaced by the greater growth of macroalgae. Despite this competition from macroalgae, which would not have been so prevalent 50 and more years ago, certain hard corals in the Jardines de la Reina are holding their own very well. The mountainous star coral is a notable example. The horse-eye jack is a primarily pelagic fish species whose diet includes fishes, shrimp, and other invertebrates. Often occurring in schools near offshore reefs, horse-eye jacks attain a length of 30 inches and a weight of 8.5 pounds. Note the blue-striped grunts seen here. More striking in coloration than the white grunts we saw earlier, they are otherwise quite similar to the white grunts biologically. Symmetrical brain corals are abundant to common in Florida, the Bahamas, and the Caribbean. They inhabit many marine environments, most frequently between 20 to 40 feet deep. Note the open mouth of the grunt seen here just to the left of the star coral. Holding the mouth open in this manner allows certain cleaner fishes to enter the grunt's mouth and thereby remove food particles that have become wedged in the grunt's teeth. Note that many coral reef fishes, such as grunts, groupers, snappers, and parrotfishes, will allow themselves to be cleaned this way. These small cleaner fishes, usually members of the wrasse family, can remove food particles from the mouth, but they can also remove parasites from the skin of the fish being cleaned. It is of mutual benefit to both the fish being cleaned and the fish cleaners. The waving plant-like organisms aren't plants at all. Rather, they are Gorgonian corals, collectively known as soft corals, and they are therefore animals. Together, the hard corals and these Gorgonian soft corals make up the corals of the reef. Here we see the Gorgonian corals known as sea fans dominating. One of the unique characteristics of the Jardines de la Reina marine ecosystem is that, relative to other present-day Caribbean coral reefs, it has good populations of both healthy, hard, and Gorgonian or soft corals. Certainly, then, one of the most enjoyable aspects of the Jardines de la Reina National Park can be found through slowly gliding above the reef and observing these various coral species and the great variety of fish species that interact among these corals. And let's take some time now to enjoy seeing a queen triggerfish interacting with sea fans and other Gorgonian corals. Queen triggerfish are predators that eat a wide variety of smaller fishes, crustaceans, and mollusks. Their diet varies depending on the season and location, but typically includes fishes such as grunts, squirrelfishes, wrasses, and filefishes. For crustaceans, crabs, shrimps, and lobsters. And for mollusks, snails, and squid. Notably, while queen triggerfish are primarily carnivorous, they sometimes become herbivorous as they occasionally eat algae. The queen triggerfish eyes are located towards the top of its head. Their eyes have the ability to move independently of each other. Indeed, as a diver approaches a queen triggerfish, he or she will notice how the queen trigger uses these eyes, almost chameleon style, to observe just how close the diver is getting. They tend to keep their distance. The name triggerfish comes from the two spines on the anterior dorsal fins that lock the fish into crevices at night. This is a defensive mechanism by which triggerfishes in general avoid getting eaten by their predators. And here we again encounter a Nassau grouper, a fish species that has been largely fished out in other parts of the Caribbean. Alas, until I disturbed it, this Nassau grouper was enjoying being cleaned by various cleaner wrasses. While less abundant than other parrotfish species, the midnight parrotfish is an important part of the trophic web. Like other parrotfish, the midnight parrotfish controls algal populations through feeding and encourages coral growth through its grazing. One of the largest of parrotfish species, the midnight parrotfish attains a length of up to 36 inches. Only two species are larger, the rainbow parrotfish and the blue parrotfish, both of which reach a total length of about 48 inches. Notice the parrot-like beak on the midnight parrotfish. This is characteristic of all parrotfish species. Being primarily herbivorous, all parrotfish species use their parrot-like beak to scrape algae from coral and other hard substrates. Like the midnight parrotfish that we just saw, the rainbow parrotfish also assists in maintaining coral reefs healthy by monitoring algae concentrations on a continuous basis. For approximately 30 minutes each night, some members of this species produce a mucus bag that functions as a sort of sleeping bag for the rainbow parrotfish. This bag has an offensive odor and generally keeps predators away during the nighttime hours. One of about 150 species of squirrelfish to occur worldwide, the most distinguishing characteristics of the long-spine squirrelfish are their large eyes and the long third spine of the anal fin. Most of the food long-spine squirrelfishes eat is zoobenthos, including crustaceans, mollusks, and gastropods. Porkfishes are primarily carnivorous bottom feeders that consume crustaceans, worms, shrimp, and other small invertebrates. Attaining lengths up to 16 inches, porkfishes tend to occur in groups. The origin of the name nurse shark is unclear. It may come from the sucking sound they make when hunting for prey in the sand, which vaguely resembles that of a nursing baby. Or it may derive from an archaic word, nusse, N-U-S-S-E, meaning cat shark. The most likely theory, though, is that the name comes from the Old English word for seafloor shark, hurse, H-U-R-S-E. In general, nurse sharks are slow-moving bottom dwellers and are, for the most part, harmless to humans. However, they can be huge, up to 14 feet in length, and have very strong jaws filled with thousands of tiny, serrated teeth, and will bite defensively if stepped on or bothered by divers who assume they're docile. Nurse sharks use their powerful jaws to crush and eat shellfish and even coral, but they prefer to dine on fish, shrimp, and squid. They are gray-brown and have distinctive tail fins that can be up to 1/4 their total length. Unlike most other sharks, nurse sharks are smooth to the touch. Like the four-eyed butterfly fish that we saw earlier, the spotfin butterfly fish has an extended tubular mouth that helps it to eat the small animals such as coral polyps upon which it feeds. The name is derived from the dark spot on the fish's dorsal fin. This, combined with a vertical black bar through the eye, is an adaptation that can confuse predators. Yellow-belly hamlets are mainly found in coral reefs. They are generally uncommon and tend to occur in inner and outer areas of complex reefs. Members of the fish family Serranidae, which includes the very large groupers to the very small fairy basslets, mature hamlets possess both male and female sex organs, and once one finds a mate, the pair alternate male and female roles over multiple mating sessions. The greater soapfish is found throughout the Caribbean, Bermuda, and south to Brazil. It is common, however, due to its reclusive behavior, it is seldom noticed. The greater soapfish's scales are covered with mucus containing gramostin, which is a foul-tasting toxic substance that keeps other fish from eating them. The greater soapfish feeds on shrimp, crabs, and small fish. As in the previous two butterfly fishes presented, the banded butterfly fish also has the extended tubular mouth used in feeding. Notably, juvenile banded butterfly fish have an eye-shaped spot on their dorsal fins, and this, of course, is similar to what we saw in the four-eyed butterfly fish earlier. And again, this is an adaptation to confuse predators. Young banded butterfly fish retain this spot until they reach a size of roughly 2 inches, and then it begins to fade away. The tough-looking dog snapper boasts large canine teeth set in their upper jaws, which are visible even when their mouths are closed. Smaller fish often fall victim to the dog snapper's powerful bite, as do shrimp, crabs, and other bottom-dwelling creatures. Dog snappers are preyed upon by large predatory fish, such as sharks and groupers. The Bermuda chub, Kyphosis sectatrix, has a circumglobal distribution and is found in the warmer waters of all the world's oceans. The Bermuda chub forms schools, and these are often mixed with other related fish species. Bermuda chubs feed upon algae, small crustaceans, and mollusks. Note now the sea turtle, moving from the left center portion of the screen to the center screen. I couldn't get close enough to determine whether it was a hawksbill sea turtle, a green sea turtle, or a loggerhead sea turtle. Our dive master suggested it was most likely a hawksbill sea turtle. As is the case with other members of the family Acanthuridae, the surgeonfishes, the blue tang consumes algae. It thus contributes to keeping the substrate free of algae and thereby allowing for new coral growth. Notably, blue tangs will even feed on the algae growing on the bodies of large fish and sea turtles. Blue tangs thus serve as cleaner species for larger fish predators. As is the case with most surgeonfishes, the blue tang has a scalpel of sorts by the caudal fin, and this is used to defend the fish. It can cause deep laceration in victims. The spiny lobster is a species belonging to the crustacean order Decapoda. It inhabits the waters of western Atlantic Ocean, especially the Caribbean Sea and the Gulf of Mexico. They generally inhabit rather shallow waters, up to about 170 feet deep. During the day, they recover in rocky hollows, reefs, or any other type of structure that gives them some protection, such as the inside of large barrel sponges. Spiny lobsters are carnivorous, feeding on sedentary or slow-moving organisms. The Goliath grouper, weighing up to 800 pounds, is the largest grouper species in the Atlantic Ocean. They were once so overfished in the southeastern United States, they were considered for listing under the Endangered Species Act. The Goliath grouper is found primarily in shallow tropical waters among coral and artificial reefs. Its range includes the Gulf of Mexico and Florida Keys in the United States, the Bahamas, most of the Caribbean, and most of the Brazilian coast. On some occasions, Goliath grouper have been caught off the coast of New England and Massachusetts and Maine. Top predators, such as the Goliath grouper, are considered a keystone species because they are essential in maintaining a balanced ecosystem by controlling mid-level predator populations, such as the invasive lionfish. The Goliath grouper is recognized by the small black spots that cover their heads and fins and the thick vertical stripes on their sides. These fish can live to almost 40 years old and spend their juvenile lives protected in mangrove forests. The destruction of the mangrove and reef ecosystems due to pollution and human activity is also contributing to the population decrease. That, of course, is not the case here in the Jardines de la Reina, where there are healthy mangrove forests in the shallows near the islands. The Goliath grouper seen here weighed well over 200 pounds. It was clearly used to being with divers. And our dive master, Jorge, fed it a lobster that he had captured. Obviously, this Goliath grouper is used to this type of treatment. Indeed, he bumped into a number of us making up the dive group. This was, no doubt, a very friendly reminder that he was hungry for lobster. After having just seen the largest species of the grouper family to occur in the Atlantic and Caribbean, the Goliath grouper, let's now take a look at the harlequin bass, which only attains a maximum length of 4 inches and is more commonly 2.5 to 3.5 inches. This is another member of the grouper family. This species is fairly common, but due to its small size, it is generally of limited interest to most divers. Queen angelfish are among the most striking reef fish. While their bright coloring would seemingly make them seem conspicuous, they actually blend in well among all the bright colors of reef animals. Queen angelfish attain a length of up to 18 inches, and they can weigh up to 3.5 pounds. The family name for angelfish, Pomacanthidae, comes from the Greek words for thorn, poma, and cover, acantha. The thorn cover refers to the preopercle spines which cover their gills and helps them to breathe and feed. Notably, queen angelfish change colors as they age. Juvenile angelfish are mainly bright yellow with a dark brown or black area between the head and the tail fin. The brown and black will lighten and finally disappear as the fish ages, turning to yellow. The primary color of a queen angelfish is a yellow-gold color. Adult queen angelfish feed largely upon the sponges they find on the coral reef. However, they are also foragers and eat a variety of sessile reef plants and invertebrates. The porcupine fish looks similar to its relative, the balloonfish, but its body is uniformly grayish-tan, speckled evenly with black spots with a white belly. The spines all over its body are modified scales, and when it's threatened, it intakes water, puffing up and making the spikes stand out. This, of course, is a defensive measure. The porcupine fish is a widely distributed species, found circumtropically and often in temperate marine environments. This wide distribution may be attributed to the pelagic or open ocean stage of the eggs and larvae. The eggs are spherical, drift with the current, and hatch after about 5 days. And here we encounter a large school of fish made up primarily of horse-eye jacks and Bermuda chubs. Like the reef shark that we saw earlier, the silky shark is a species of requiem shark in the family Carcharinidae. It's named for the smooth texture of its skin. It is one of the most abundant sharks in the pelagic zone and can be found around the world in tropical waters. Highly mobile and migratory, This shark is most often found over the edge of the continental shelf down to a depth of about 160 feet. The silky shark has a slender, streamlined body and typically grows to a length of about 8 feet 2 inches. It can be distinguished from other large requiem sharks by its relatively small first dorsal fin with a curving rear margin, its tiny second dorsal fin with a long, free rear tip, and its long, sickle-shaped pectoral fins. It is a deep metallic bronze color above and white below. The silky shark has a cosmopolitan distribution in marine waters warmer than 73 degrees Fahrenheit. In the Atlantic Ocean, it is found from Massachusetts to Spain in the north and from southern Brazil to northern Angola in the south, including the Gulf of Mexico and the Caribbean Sea. The silky shark is one of the three most common pelagic sharks, along with the blue and oceanic white-tip sharks, and counts among the most numerous large oceanic animals in the world, with a population of at least tens of millions. Compared to the other two shark species, the silky shark is less strictly pelagic, with the greatest numbers found in offshore waters associated with land, where food is more readily obtained than farther out in the truly open ocean. At the end of a dive in the Jardines de la Reina, we often found some 5 to 10 silky sharks circling the boat. They made for good dive companions as we exited the water. Common octopus, Octopus vulgaris, is a mollusk belonging to the class Cephalopoda, which includes squids, octopus, paper octopus, cuttlefish, and a number of others. Octopus vulgaris is one of the most studied of all octopus species, and also one of the most intelligent. It ranges from the eastern Atlantic, extends from the Mediterranean Sea and the southern coast of England to the southern coast of South Africa. It also occurs off the Azores, Canary Islands, and Cape Verde Islands. This species is also common in the western Atlantic, and clearly the Caribbean as well. The common octopus hunts at dusk. Crabs, crayfish, and bivalve mollusks, two-shelled such as cockles, are preferred, although the octopus eats almost anything it can catch. It is able to change color to blend in with its surroundings, as can be seen here. The common octopus will jump upon any unwary prey that strays across its path. Using its beak, it is able to break into the shells of shelled mollusks. Training experiments have shown the common octopus can distinguish the brightness, size, shape, and horizontal or vertical orientation of objects. Common octopuses have evolved to have large nervous systems and brains. An individual has about 500 million neurons in its body, almost comparable to dogs. They are intelligent enough to distinguish brightness, navigate mazes, recognize individual people, learn how to unscrew a jar, or raid lobster traps. They have also been observed keeping gardens in which they collect various marine plant life and algae, alongside collections of shells and rocks. Along with seahorses and cornetfishes, trumpetfishes are members of the order Syngnathiformes. These fish are closely related, and the generic name, Olastomus, is a compound of the two Greek words, olos, meaning flute, and stoma, which means mouth. Their tubular snout is the main reason for their name. Trumpetfish are carnivorous fish that feed on small fish and invertebrates. They have developed many specialized feeding techniques. When prey appears, the trumpetfish opens its mouth wider than the diameter of its body. This is helped by the elastic tissues of its mouth and creates a vacuum that sucks the prey into the mouth. The princess parrotfish is common throughout the Caribbean. It inhabits coral reefs. An active swimmer, the princess parrotfish stops to feed by scraping algae from rocks and coral with its beak. As is the case with the rainbow parrotfish that we discussed earlier, the princess parrotfish can secrete a mucus cocoon in which it goes to sleep. This, of course, is done at night as a protective measure for the fish. The green moray eel lives in solitude and is primarily nocturnal. Green moray eels hunt for fish in small crevices along coral reefs and shorelines. If the fish appears too large to consume whole, the eel can wrap itself around the fish in a knot to disable it and then consumes it after tearing it into smaller pieces. Green moray eels are not picky eaters. They are opportunistic predators that prey on any fish that is small enough for them to consume, as well as other crustaceans and cephalopods. The green moray eel deserves its role as a top predator in its marine ecosystem, positioning itself to have few predators due to its large size and reputation to viciously attack potential threats. In the Jardines de la Reina, divers often encounter green moray eels. Although feared by humans for their vicious bite, moray eels rarely attack unless first provoked. Although adult green moray eels can attain a total length of up to 8 feet, they are more commonly 3 to 5 feet long. If one looks closely, on our right of this moray eel, we can see a little white shrimp ascending the body of this moray eel and going up to where the dorsal fin meets the top of the body right now. That is a cleaner shrimp. This shrimp, in a symbiotic relationship, eats parasites off the moray eel. The queen conch is a large gastropod mollusk belonging to the same taxonomic group, the mollusca. Queen conchs are slow-growing and late to mature, reaching up to 12 inches in length and living up to 30 years. The queen conch occurs throughout the Caribbean Sea, the Gulf of Mexico, and around Bermuda. Strictly protected here in the Jardines de la Reina, queen conch are, in other areas, highly sought for their meat and one of the most valuable species in the Caribbean. Even more difficult to get close to than the queen triggerfish is the black durgeon triggerfish, Melichthys niger. This is a circumtropical triggerfish species occurring from Hawaii up through Polynesia, westward to the East Indies, and across the Indian Ocean. Unlike the short fins characteristic of the adult, the juvenile spotted drum in their juvenile state have long ribbon-like dorsal fins that flow behind them as they float and dance around in repetitive patterns, typically in a semi-protected nook in the coral reef. A member of the family Pomacentridae, the Damselfishes, is the sergeant major, which is seen here as the black and yellow vertically striped fish in the upper right-hand corner of this stand of pillar coral. Attaining an adult length of 5.9 inches, the sergeant major feeds upon the larvae of invertebrates, zooplankton, smaller fishes, crustaceans, and various species of algae. The hogfish is a species within the wrasse family, Labridae. It is native to the western Atlantic Ocean, living in a range from Nova Scotia, Canada, to northern South America, including the Gulf of Mexico, as well as the Caribbean. This species occurs around reefs, especially preferring areas with plentiful Gorgonian corals. It is a carnivore which feeds on mollusks, as well as crabs and sea urchins. The hogfish is currently the only known member of its genus. As is the case with many members of the wrasse family, the hogfish is a sequential hermaphrodite. This means it changes sex during different life stages. It is protogynous, being female first. Juvenile hogfish start out as female and then mature to become males. The change usually occurs around 3 years of age and about 14 inches in length. Hogfish have been recorded to live up to 11 years. The gray angelfish is found in the western Atlantic from New York to Rio de Janeiro, although it is typically not found north of Florida during the winter. Its range extends to all of the Caribbean Sea and the Gulf of Mexico. A diurnal species, the gray angelfish hides in the reef during the night. They mainly feed on sponges, but have also been recorded feeding on algae as well as tunicates, zoantherians, gorgonians, hydroids, and bryozoans. The juveniles act as cleaner fish, establishing a cleaning station which is visited by a variety of larger fishes for the juvenile gray angelfish to remove and consume their ectoparasites. Gray angelfish have been recorded spawning above deep reefs during the early morning. During this time, they swim 3 to 6 feet above the reef and indulge in brief chases. The pair will chase off intruders as well. When they are ready, the pair swims upwards, bringing their bellies together to release eggs and milk. The southern stingray is a moderately sized whiptail stingray native to the western Atlantic Ocean. Unlike the spotted eagle rays, the southern stingray spends much of its time in contact with the seafloor, often buried in soft sediment with only its large eyes uncovered. The southern stingray's mouth is on the ventral, that is, bottom side of its head, and it uses an electric sense to locate a variety of invertebrate and fish prey. Its preferred prey includes many different species of shrimps, crabs, and other crustaceans. The fish seen shadowing the southern stingray here is a barjack. The barjack is a benthopelagic predator, taking its prey both in midwater and along the seafloor. The diet consists mostly of fish, about 90%. The remaining 10% is made up of planktonic crustaceans and small cephalopods. Shadowing southern stingrays in this manner is common behavior for the barjack. Like all fishes, the southern stingray obtains oxygen from the water using its gills, but its habit of burying its mouth in the sediment provides an obstacle to passing water from its mouth to the gill cavity. This species solves that problem by pumping water through specialized openings called spiracles. These are located on the top of the head, right near the eyes. One can clearly see the spiracles here. Let's now simply enjoy the southern stingray flying, if you will, over a relatively open area of the Jardines de la Reina. Yellow goatfish are benthic feeders, using a pair of long chemosensory barbels, quote-unquote whiskers, protruding from their chins to rifle through the sediments in search of a meal. They usually feed on smaller fish, hunting in a school during the day and alone at night. Yellow goatfish can live solitarily or in similarly sized groups, sometimes switching between groups. When hunting in groups, each goatfish can be either a chaser, directly attacking prey, or function as a blocker, thus surrounding prey that is hiding in coral. A very attractive member of the angelfish family, the Pomacanthidae, the rock beauty is found in the western Atlantic Ocean, where it ranges from Bermuda and the waters of Georgia and Florida in southwards through the Caribbean Sea and along the coasts of South America as far as Rio de Janeiro. The adults are normally encountered as pairs and appear to form long-term monogamous relationships. If one looks closely here, one can see a gold-faced toby, a member of the Pufferfish family, and it's a little bit smaller than this rock beauty, maybe about 1/3 its length. There it is on the lower left. It's an interesting little pufferfish relative. The honeycomb cowfish has armor-like hexagonal scales covering most of its body. It is named for its unique honeycomb-like pattern and quote-unquote horns. This pattern helps the fish to blend with coral reefs. Honeycomb cowfish are usually solitary, but can be seen in groups of 3s consisting of 1 male and 2 females. Little is known about their reproduction. Honeycomb codfish feed during the day. The diet consists of small marine invertebrates, including shrimp, sponges, algae, tunicates, and worms.